But what do you think is going to happen when I say I is equal to I plus 2? So when I run this, it is only going to print some numbers in the array. And which numbers are those? So it starts from the first element, then it prints it out. Then when it reaches the increment, it sees here that it is going to increment I by 2. So when I add 2 to 0, that gives me 2. So it is going to go to the second element, which is the third value in the array, then print 888. After that, it would increment by 2 again, then go to the fifth value, then print 456. Then when it increments by 2 again, it is going to be 7, and we don't have 7 um we don't have 7 elements in this array. So Emmanuel, what's your question?
So what's the difference between the for loop and the while loop?
Okay, so like I said, the for and the while loop, they perform similar operations. They perform the same action, but it's just their syntax. It's the way we write them that is different. So if you know, for our for loop, we have something like this, where we have everything sort of on the same line. But for my while loop, we have the initialization outside of the loop, then we have the condition here, and we have my increment here. So it is just the way we write them that are different. So they are both used to go through a piece of code over and over again till a condition is met. So I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did, but for the for loop, I tried to do what you did the other time, and it keep printing it like continuously. And I added the I plus that you did.
Okay, but what was your condition? Your for loop, you would have a condition.
Yeah, the condition is I less than number dot length, like less than the number in the array.
So this is what you are, Davi.
Yes,
Is this how your for loop is? Exactly like this.
yeah, exactly like that.
And you said it just keeps printing only the first
It
element.
keeps print. Yes, it keeps printing only the first one.
Okay. Norms at I. And is this how you are printing the values of the array?
Yeah, just like that.
Okay.
Then I added an if statement that when it gets to a certain number, it should print random.
It should print random.
Yes.
Then that if statement is not being triggered.
So the if state it just keeps printing random,
It just keeps.
and
You know what? You know
yeah,
what?
it keeps
I
printing.
think you should paste your code in the chat box so everyone can just learn from it. So because
Okay,
yeah, code doesn't lie. You're making a mistake. So let's just see the mistake you're making so everyone can learn from it.
okay, I'll try to do that.
Okay. Maybe when you do, you can just notify me. That's going to take some time, so we don't waste time.
Okay, you can just continue.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks. So, like I said, the while and the for loops, they perform the same operation. They just allow us to run a piece of code over and over again. And the code we are running here is just this. So we are just logging the value um, of the element we are in the array. So the operation, as always, it can be more complex than this. So you can run a complex operation multiple times by using the for or the while loop. So yeah, so that is what we use those. So that's what we use them for in programming, and this is the syntax in JavaScript. So I hope we understand the for and the while loop. So let's move on. Let's move on because we are moving on to functions, which is a very important part of programming, a very important part of JavaScript because your whole application is going to be built around functions. So and we know that functions help us perform, so they help us perform um, actions. So functions help us perform actions. Okay. Yes. Mohammed, do you have a question?
Okay, sir. My question is, are we not looking at the arrays and the objects?
Um yeah, we would look at arrays and objects after functions. So after functions we have arrays, then we will look at objects as well. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Mohammed. That is great. So let's move on to functions. So, like we've said multiple times, we know that functions they help us perform actions. And which actions are we talking about? So, functions can be as simple as just adding two numbers, and they can be as complex as accessing a database or accessing a server or whatnot. So, um, this is going to be a return between the two parameters num1 and num2. So we have different parts to a function. So the first one is, let's say, the function name. So there is another syntax to writing function, which is function. Then we'll have our name, and we would have our parameters num1 and num2. So these are the two ways of writing functions in JavaScript. So the first one is known as your arrow function. So the first one is your arrow function, and the second one is function declaration or function expression. Function expression. So these are the two types of function declarations we have in JavaScript. So we have arrow function, then function expression. Okay, so we have this piece of code now. So let me just copy this so we can quickly go through it. Yeah, Emmanuel, what is your question?
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you that I pasted it.
Okay, okay, okay. So this is the piece of code we have. Now let me try to run it using node test.js. Um yeah, Emmanuel, the code is working fine
Is it working fine? How? Why does it have to print random after one, then after two?
because you added this here. So because you are logging random. So if I comment this out, it is not going to do that anymore. So it will just print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So
Where is the random from?
the random is from this line. So because he's logging it to the console, so that is why it is printing random. But once I commented it, you can see that we no longer have random in our output. But if I uncomment this, we would have random. And you can see that it is breaking at 5 because of the condition he added here. So the number goes up to 9, but it is breaking when we hit 5 because of this condition. So
Okay. So
yeah,
it will print
the
the
loop.
condition before the actual value.
Sorry, I didn't get
I
that.
said
I said it will print the condition before the actual value, like the like 1, 2, 3.
Yes. So it is
Okay.
printing this. So like your code runs line by line. Sure you get. So
Okay,
it will
okay.
firstly print the value, then it will check if that value is 5, then it will break after that. So that is why after 5, you can see that there is nothing that is being printed. Even the random is not printing because once it hits the break statement, it just ends the loop. So that is why immediately after 5, we don't have any other thing. So Emeka, do you have a question? Okay, so let's move on with functions. So we are already
Sorry, can I ask a question?
okay, please go ahead.
I was busy trying to copy the code. So you said there is two type of function, one arrow function and the other one is what?
Functional expression. So like the traditional type function expression.
So when do we use the arrow function and the other one?
They are the same thing. It's just the syntax that is different. So they yeah, it's just
Is
syntax.
there is there a shortcut for writing the arrow?
Um, I'm not sure actually. I think there might be. So you can just look at that. Yeah. There might be. There might be. So you can just look at it. So yeah. So we have two functions. These functions do the same thing, but it's just the syntax that is different, like we can see here. So the first part of the function for the arrow function is our the name of our function. So here the name of the function is add. Then the second part are the parameters. So here we have two parameters, num1 and num2. Then the last part is the block of code for our function. So what the function actually does is going to be inside curly braces for both our arrow function and function expression. So they are both going to be inside curly braces. Then for the function expression as well, we have the parameters inside of rounded brackets, and we have our function name. But for this, in place of the arrow, we have the function keyword. So that is like the difference. Is just syntax that is different. They are both functions. They would work exactly the same way. Yeah, so it's just the syntax that is different. So it is just anyone you prefer really. So I would just keep on using this arrow function. So we can get the result of a function by executing a function. So when you want to execute a function, you simply call the function name and you pass in your parameter values. So here we have parameters, but when we are executing a function, we would have parameter values. So let's say 3 comma 4. Then I can print the result by saying console.log results. So when I run this program, we can see that the result here is 7, which is the addition between 3 and 4. But what happens when I remove one of these parameter values? So my function is expecting two values, but it is getting only one. So it doesn't know what to do, and it just returns not a number. So this is as good as saying an error. So it is just returning not a number. So what can we do to avoid this? So the first thing we can do is we can add a default value for our num2. So let's just say that num2 is equal to 4 here, or let's say 65. So even if I don't pass in a parameter for my num2, you can see that it uses the default value, which is 65. Then it adds that to 3, and we get 68. So anytime you are using parameters that have default values, it is advisable to add them at the end of your parameter lineup.